Welcome back. It's still Daybreak on Trust TV. Now we're going straight to look at the headlines of the major dailies this morning, and we're going to start with the Daily Trust newspaper. Carries this major headline on the front page: Pope not against my Tinubu's campaign DG offer, says Lalong. It comes with a kicker Muslim ticket. And riders here that says Shetima's selection is not a religious affair, and Obi supporters defaming me, says Tinubu. It's not true, says the Labour Party presidential candidate. Other stories here, still talking about 2023. Sultan Khan signed pact to de-escalate religious tension. And story is on page 25. Early signs show tight Kenyan presidential election. That's on page 5 of the Daily Trust. Moving to the top of the page, you'll find Buhari supports regulator, backs down on Seplat's purchase of ExxonMobil assets, and how Kaduna scholarship loan scheme is changing indigent students' lives. Details of that on page 24. Jais Bank grows balance sheet to over 300 billion. That is on page 19. And coming down back to the bottom of the page again, 109 billion naira fraud. Ex-accountant General Idris seeks plea bargain. Details of that on page 4. And Darie to run for Senate after prison release. That is on page 25. Now, these are the major headlines on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper.
Moving on to the Vanguard newspaper. The major headline on the Vanguard newspaper here says, tension in PDP as crisis worsen. Elders weigh options. It has the Riders Campaign Council to be unveiled within 2 weeks in Abuja. Substantial progress is being made, according to Atiku's camp. We will resolve crisis soon, PDP leader. Ayu should resign honorably. Bode George urges Wike not to jump ship. Wike, a one-man balancing force, according to Mimiko. We have other stories there. 2023, Sultan Khan signs peace pact. Mobile assets, Buhari withdraw consent over $1.3 billion oil deal. And down there we have Obi Tinubu in war of words over fake news allegation. We have others such as drama as motorists, commuters chase traffic robbers on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. And Flutterwave raised staff size by 200, names new chief, people and culture officer. These are the major headlines on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper this morning.
The next newspaper we're looking at is the Daily Sun newspaper, which carries this major headline on the front page. NAF bombs terrorist base, kills kingpin, 17 others. And it comes with the riders, rescues 26 hostages in Kaduna, 6 family members of ex-military governor, a 60-year-old lady kidnapped in Kaduna train attack, regain freedom. And another headline on the front page of the Daily Sun, ASU, civil society groups ask NLC, TUC to begin mobilization for general strike. And the rider here that says decries FG's failure to resolve unions' demands within 2 weeks. Talking about politics, pressure mounts on Ayu to quit as PDP chair, and it carries the riders, you must keep your word, Bode George tells him, and he must go, says representatives. Party can't waive rule for one member, says Baraji. And that's on page 6 of the Daily Sun. Muslim ticket. Pope hasn't told me to reject DG appointment, says Lalong. And drug war, DPO 60 others bag jail term for drug trafficking in Niger. Now, these are the major headlines on the front page of the Daily Sun newspaper this morning.
And moving on to the Nation newspaper this morning, a quick one on the front page. PDP crisis, why Ayu must quit now by ex-party chair. Bode George chairman candidate can't come from one zone. And more from the headlines, we have EFCC to try 3 officials for all train pardon list. Well, and NSCIA can sign 2023 peace pact. Train attack, terrorists free family of 6 hostages. Rein in your supporters, Tinubu Campaign Council tells Obi. And we have more there. I think these are the major headlines on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
The next newspaper we're looking at this morning is the Nigerian Tribune, and it carries this major headline. Fear grips PDP leaders over worsening Atiku-Wike feud. And rider here, Rivers Governor's sacrifice made PDP strong opposition party, says Mimiko. Bandits relieved 7 more kidnapped train passengers, and suspended accountant General Idris seeks plea bargain in 109 billion naira fraud case. At the top of the front page there, you find Buhari reverses approval for Seplat to buy ExxonMobil shares, supports NUPRC, and bandits abduct Anbugo Abdullah, his daughter-in-law, and 4 grandchildren in Kaduna. Idris Ojo, Kuje prison escapee, not one of the suspected or church attackers, says Akeredolu, and DHQ make a clarification. Flutterwave announces new chief people and culture officer, increased staff size by 200. Now, these are the major headlines on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune.
And moving on to the Guardian newspaper this morning, the major headlines, it's presidency turn of South despite religion. Akeredolu insists. Lalong, Pope hasn't opposed my DG appointment, proud to lead APC's Muslim ticket campaign as a Catholic. Resign as VP candidate to save APC from embarrassing defeat. Middle Belt Congress tells Shatima. And Lalong appointment as Tinubu's campaign DG, political miscalculation, says group. And we have photographs there of the family that were released yesterday. And one of the major stories also on the front page there reads, PDP party elders move to constitute campaign team, seek patience to end crisis. And we have other stories there, as Igbo youth asks promoters of Tinubu to keep off Southeast. And government will not borrow 1.1 trillion to meet ASU's demands, says Umahi. These are the major stories on the front page of the Guardian newspaper.
And that's a wrap on the look at the front pages of the papers this morning. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll go straight into the review with our reviewer this morning. So do stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
Welcome back, and this is Daybreak on Trust TV. So we're going straight into the review of the headlines on the newspaper front pages that we just looked at. And right here in the studio, we have the editor-in-chief of Dateline Nigeria, Nasir Lawal, in the studio to help us analyze these headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
Yes, always nice to have you here. All right, so let's get straight to it. One of the major stories that we actually saw across newspapers this morning is the campaign DG of the APC presidential campaign making a bold statement, bringing the papacy into the whole situation. And what's your take on the whole situation about people? He is actually trying to justify his taking up the campaign DG position on a Muslim ticket, while he's still saying that is not an indictment on his Christianity and his own religion and his own beliefs. And that has gone as far as saying that even the Pope does not oppose it. So what's your take on the entire situation?
Well, I think he's trying to do so many things at the same time with the statement that he's making. But this is more of a personal affair. I don't know why he's like bringing the papacy into it. Probably he's trying to tell some of the people that are against the Muslim ticket that actually you cannot be more Catholic than the Pope. But like I said, this is about a personal decision. When he decided to run for the governor of Plateau State, I am not sure he waited for the papacy to give him direction along that line.
Exactly.
So even the same thing with this. If it is something that you think you cannot do, probably he wouldn't have taken it. But since he has agreed to take up the assignment, then he will look for all the excuses in this world to try to justify them, and that's only natural.
But do you think making statements like this can turn out to be counterproductive?
Well, in a way, because it's unfortunate that in the run-up to the 2023 elections, we are still not talking about the issues. We are still being bogged down by all the issues that we shouldn't be talking about. I'm not saying they are not important, but honestly, we shouldn't be like focusing on them, because when we do that, we tend to miss out on the most important issues. Even though Nigeria is being looked at primarily, along maybe the north versus the south, Muslim versus Christians. Honestly, I don't think that should be the case, because what happens, what are your plans? What are the things that you are telling Nigerians that when you vote us into power, these are the things that we will do? This is what Nigerians are actually interested in, not about, because in any case, we have already known that the one of the parties is fielding a Muslim ticket. Others are not doing the same thing. So it's like, yeah, so it's already given.
Interesting. Another story we saw making most of the headline was the decision of the presidency yesterday to back out on what appears to be an earlier consent on the Seplat ExxonMobil deal. I mean, we saw the mess that was made with that deal, with people finding back channels to the presidency to get approval, whereas there are statutory institutions that are supposed to do those evaluations and provide approval. Now the president has taken a very bold step to counter a position that he had earlier taken. What do you think this signals for governance in Nigeria?
Well, I think it's an important move by the president, even though it was not a good one for him in the first place, because it means there is breakdown of communication somewhere, because the president should have known that the commission is actually an independent commission, it's autonomous, they have like the final say on issues such as this. But I will also blame the system, which in any case is also headed by the president. Being the Minister of Petroleum in this case, he should have done the needful, consult and all that before taking the decision. But it's actually good that he's now going back on his words, because Nigerians really and the big man thing that we sometimes he may think, okay, since I have already said it, there is no going back on it. And I think institutions like the CBN should also learn from this. When you have autonomy, you try to exert it, so that you are allowed to do, because in any case, it's your own name that will be people will be making reference over.
But beyond the president reversing himself, if we could establish clearly that people have deliberately misled the president, shouldn't there be consequence for?
Certainly there must be, because if you allow something like this to go unpunished, then we should just be waiting for a repeat, because people are just there, waiting for a chance to get one or two things out of the system. So unless you punish this, people want to continue making the same mistakes.
All right. One of the stories that actually is making the rounds right now is the recent release of some more abducted passengers from the Kaduna Abuja train attack, and the family that was actually taken. A lot of people's attention was drawn to the fact that these children were actually kept and held in captivity all this while. So there's a collective sigh of relief when they eventually were released. I just want to get your general view on this release. Has been done piecemeal, and just like Sunday pointed out earlier, you have a private citizen that is mediating and negotiating on behalf of the families and then getting these people out. And the government is actually not visible. We believe maybe that there's some back channeling going on. But generally, what is your general take on how the situation has been handled on the government side of things?
Well, I will want to first of all congratulate the family members, that have been released. You can actually imagine the trauma, what they had to go through, while in captivity. And unfortunately, in Nigeria, we don't pay attention to things like therapy and what have you, because unless we do that, we'll be sending the wrong messages to all these little kids, because some of them may start believing that this is normal, this is like a usual occurrence, and there is nothing wrong with it. And the fact that we have, like splashed their photos all over the place, I also see them maybe facing one or two cases of stigma from people, when they go back to school. I will not be surprised if some of their colleagues, will want to be like, make a reference to that, which will not be very good. But we are talking about the government's role here. Honestly, the government, well, maybe like you said, there are maybe some back channeling going on, but we have not been seeing it, and the government should actually come out to give us the confidence that it's actually on top of this situation, so that those who are still in captivity, will be given some hope that yes, we are also on our way out. But the government right now, I don't know, maybe it's also fatigued because we can't really see the effort that the government is actually putting.
But can the government afford to be fatigued in kind of
Certainly they can't, because they have a responsibility.
Exactly.
Because if they had done the needful, probably we wouldn't be talking about this, because if there was security in the first place, we wouldn't have been talking about the abduction ab initio. So the government should actually wake up and play its role, because it's a responsibility that it has, and it has to play it.
Interesting. When you were talking there, I was having goosebumps because of my personal experience with incidences like this. But that is by the way. Another story also on the part of security that seemed to have made most of the headlines was also the issue of the OWA attackers that were seen to have been arrested. The chief of defense staff has given us names that does appear to be synonymous with the names on the list of the wanted persons from Kuje, an attack that happened 1 month apart, after the OWA incidents. And Nigerians were wondering, did they leave OWA and jump into Kuje prisons? And now the governor is saying there was a mix-up on the list. I mean, is it the governor that should be clarifying this, or even the defense? Because you have these guys you have arrested, you debriefed them, and you briefed the media. How in heaven's name are you mixing the names with names that were released by another department of government, which is the Correctional Service, that has nothing to do with your database? Well, you may share intelligence, but you don't exactly keep those names. You caught people, spoke to them, debriefed them, took records, only to come to the public place and give us names of people who are on the wanted list. Does this explanation by the governor, suffices for you as a citizen?
Well, I actually blame the media for mixing up the issues, because from what I read, that's the version reported by the news agency of Nigeria. It was clear, the chief of defense staff was actually talking about the successes that they recorded, one of which was the arrest of, I think, Ojo, who escaped from Kuje prison. But he was arrested along with some of the members, that were being blamed for the OWA attack. So their names were given in the same breath. And rather than separating the circumstance, we ended up just
modeling
everything and then saying the guy that left Kuje was actually, and even the governor had to come out to say, no, the Ojo guy is not part of the OWA attack. He was only arrested when the others were also being arrested.
Yeah, well, you see, a lot of people have a problem with sometimes the way the military actually projects itself on the media. They're trying not, we don't have their own versions of stories. Usually they come out, they say, you reported this is not true, or why should you be reporting this? When they don't have their own version out there, they're not interfacing with the media the way it's supposed to be. A lot of people actually believe that this clarification should not be coming from the governor. It should be coming from the DHQ because the story came out from them. So what is your impression on how the DHQ now, or the military in general, is handling the media aspect of this war on insecurity, because it is part of it?
Yeah. Well, the governor actually wanted to latch on the announcement by the DHQ to also show his people that he is also on top of it, that actually what they said is true, and this is even what I know of it. But like you rightly said, honestly, the way the military is interfacing with the media, it's not in a way that you will expect, because we are like partners in progress. And the problem of not telling your own story is some people will tell it on your behalf. And they may not be able to know exactly the details that you will want out there. You can see anytime they want to appoint a spokesperson, they don't care about the background, whether you have a communication background. They see it as a regimental posting, and they do that. And without appointing people that actually know the workings of the media, things like this will continue to happen. And it will be to the disadvantage of the DHQ, because how will you feel when you are doing your best, but then there is nobody to actually project that, to show that you are actually doing your best?
It's unfortunate. We borrow all sorts of things, including structures, from some of the finest places in the world: Sandhurst, India, the National War College in the US. I don't know why we don't borrow everything. We sort of borrow what we are confident of, because these institutions have some of the finest school of communications, finest. Whether it is in propaganda or even balancing narratives or taking advantage of narratives. And you just allow things to go sour, and you come back with explanations that in themselves don't sort of tie in. We have seen the military in special operations outside these climes take journalists along under some kind of protective custody, so that you report firsthand what you have seen, successes that. But in this case, we just see vehicles traveling through vegetations, and then they tell us 30 have been killed, 50 have been. It creates, for so much doubt, especially in the face of the number of times they had to kill Shekau, and how many times they told us the war had ended, that these people have no capacity for fantastic attack, and only the next day they go out and carry out something even more audacious than the last one. But away from this, we saw the Sultan and Khan sign a peace pact to de-escalate religious tension. And the early signs are already there in very dangerous dimensions, if you like. Is it just about Khan and the religious leaders? I was thinking some kind of arrangements that will bring in even the political players actively into this arrangement would have made more meanings, because for the people who genuinely love this country, they've always signed this pact. But every time the politicians go out, the things they say, can only set this country on fire. How else can we expand this kind of effort so that everyone is brought on board?
Well, I don't even know why we tend to bring the Supreme Council of Islamic Affairs and the Christian Association of Nigeria into things like this. I'm not saying that they don't have any role to play, but are we trying to hold them responsible for the actions of politicians, and even themselves that are coming out to sign all these pacts? Are they saying we are doing it on behalf of politicians, that happen to be members of our own faith? That's one thing we should get clear. This is about politicians, and it doesn't matter whether they are Christians or Muslims. And the tension, they are actually the ones that are
stoking the
tension. So why should the religious bodies be the ones talking about this? The politicians, like I said, should come out and give us their words, and then we find a way of holding them responsible to what they say. But to just bring in all the religion, maybe because they're easy to get. And honestly, and maybe they also see it as maybe being relevant,
yes,
but honestly, I think they should begin to maybe de-emphasize their role in issues like this. They have a role to play, yes, but not along the way we are bringing them in.
But generally, I mean, in the run-up to this particular election that we're talking about, generally, do you think politicians are actually doing enough to to douse tensions? Because right now, for the past couple of weeks and days, there's this back and forth between two presidential aspirants about control your people. Your people are abusing me. They are making a mockery of me. Tell them to stop it, and all that. How much power or how much influence does a politician actually have on what his supporters do or don't do? And are they doing enough to sort of, let's say, control what happens, what their supporters do?
Well, again, you may not be like 100% responsible for the actions of your supporters. But when you come out to say, don't do this on my behalf. If you do this, know that I'm not with you. If you are able to do that, at least people will be able to separate, some of the actions of your supporters and your own actions. But what the problem we are having, people are afraid. The politicians are scared of coming out to talk because they don't want to lose their supporters. So that's like the problem we are having. And if you are talking about tension, politicians being politicians, if it serves them, they will continue stoking the tension.
True.
Because what they want is to
win the election at all costs.
Not to see whether the nation is... Because you can see all over the papers, some are saying we are facing existential threat. The former president coming out to say that if we miss this opportunity, in 2023, we will be finished and all that. Politicians know all this, but they are still running for offices because why? They know that by the time they get into offices, the stories will change. So if you see them stoking all this tension, it's because maybe it's serving their purpose. But honestly, they should be out and about. They should be clear. Any issue that has to do with violence, they should be able to come out to denounce that and things like that.
Before we let you go, one last story that also seems to have made most of the headlines. It's about the Accountant General and the purported $1.9 billion theft. Now he's seeking for plea bargain. I mean, he seemed to want to go the ways of several others before him. Are we not cheapening the whole concept of a plea bargain? You go in, take as much as you can, enter into a plea bargain, remit some, and then go back and enjoy your loot. Isn't that what this is looking at?
Well, my understanding is you shouldn't be the one,
requesting for that.
And the government should also weigh its options. What's the possibility of securing a conviction? And then how much is willing to because the plea bargain thing is for you to agree to plead guilty, and then in maybe a return for a lighter sentence or something like that. So the government should weigh its options. Can we prosecute this to a logical conclusion? If we can do that, fine, because probably we may get to recover more. But with the plea bargain, maybe he will just be returning some
part of it,
and he will be getting,
and then keeping that, and before you know it, in the next
election cycle,
he might come out and start running for senator.
or getting a sent forth from the prison as we saw with the other governors.
And you can see, even his supporters are already, all over the place, trying to show that the man is good, he has helped so many people. But if in the course of helping people, he has gone against the law, then he should be prosecuted for it.
Amazing perspective there from Nigeria. I was just reading something to Ibrahim earlier, and one of the arguments for Darius' release was that they said he was too sick to serve his jail sentence, and somebody said, but he wasn't too sick to contest for the Senate of the Federal Republic. Very interesting perspective there coming from Nasrin Lawal, the editor-in-chief, Dateline Newspapers. If you had missed out on that conversation, you can catch up on YouTube and other social media handle of Trust Television. It's been a pleasure having you in the studio, provide those deep insight on the issues making the front page of the papers this morning.